Hello everybody, Pinstripe here, and welcome to a brand new season of the Hogs of War League. We have a lot to discuss in this video because boy oh boy have we had a lot of changes over the new year. There's been a lot of discussions, a lot of talking, and indeed a lot of work on my part to get things sorted and ready for the upcoming seasons for both Grunt League and Pro League and everything else in between. Today we'll be talking about the new structure that we have in mind for the upcoming league, and of course a full breakdown of the maps we'll be using this year, because we've had quite the clean out of the old maps, but the fortification update brought along some that could really help to improve our map pool overall and provide some more interesting maps that are visually appealing and competitively ready, I suppose, because there's quite a few maps that we've been hanging on to for quite some time that just weren't cutting the mustard, and now we have some fresh ones to talk about today. But before all of that, let's turn our attention to the elephant in the room, the upcoming season for Grunt League. It will be Season 3, however this year we are looking to, I guess, extend Grunt League to have both a winter and summer league specifically for Grunt League. This is primarily because we get an influx of players usually after Grunt League is finished in the winter, so having that summer Grunt League there will really help us to get those people involved so they don't have to wait an entire year for the Grunt League to come back around again. So if you take a look at this graph, look at this graph! Yeah, if you look at this timeline for 2023, you can see that the Grand Prix is going on between January and February. That is still very much underway, and we should have the live finals for that soon. Then we have our regular season of Grunt League, so the winter season, which is, been happening for the past 2 seasons now. Then we have a special event, which I'm not going to talk about because that's currently in the works, and is not my place to spoil it for viewers. Then we have Rank Up, of course, more towards May, June time. And then we have our Summer Grunt League, which will take place somewhere between June and August. Then we have a slight break. Then we have the Hogs War Pro League, with the potential for some qualifiers beforehand, because we have also been debating about how do we deal with players that have finished at the bottom of the table in the Pro League, but they're kind of too good in a way for Grunt League. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they won't play in Grunt League, because we do have a few players that are kind of on an in-between, where they're not like super top tier in the Pro League, but they're not so newbie and just kind of fresh to Hogs competitively. They very much have a chance of winning the Grunt League and kind of adding that to their tally, because it is very much a rite of passage in a way, where we've had previous players that have gone on in their first season of Grunt League to win it and then be promoted up to the Pro League. So it's very much a judge of how they play and whether or not they have the skills to make it. But the qualifier is going to be there for the pot of players that are in that in-between, and if they want to be playing in the Pro League, then they can very much kind of submit themselves to that qualifier, and yeah, that's basically what it will come down to fill those pockets, I suppose, because with each season we have changing in players. Certain players don't necessarily want to play. We had Bobby drop out last season, and a couple of others that did play in the Pro League previously, so it did free up some spaces. So it's a constantly fluctuating space, but we just hope to fill in those gaps and make it as fair as possible, because at the end of the day it comes down to a head-to-head, and qualifiers are very much a welcome addition to that. Now, depending on the caliber of players that we get interest from, the Summer Grunt League might not actually become the Summer Grunt League. It might just become a mid-season tournament, because if we get kind of more interest from high-skilled players and less so from new players, then it won't be very balanced. So we'll be keeping those factors in mind as the season rolls on. But for the upcoming Winter Grunt League, starting on the 13th of February, the plan is, again, depending on numbers, to have 2 groups of either 5 or 6 players. And it will be the usual system of the top 3 go through to the playoffs, and then we go from there. But the major important detail that you need to remember for this season of Grunt League is that the regular group matches will be on 45 seconds, and then when we move on to the playoffs, it will be changed to 30 seconds. So we get a tougher scenario for those players that make it through to the playoffs, and it's very much, playing in the shadow, I guess, of the Pro League, because if whoever wins this season of Grunt League, if they want to move up to the Pro League, they will have already played competitive matches, or at least a handful of them, on 30 seconds, so they can kind of get a feel for how that is. Now then, dear viewer, it is time for the tasty business of the maps. Now these are the maps we're going to be using throughout the entire competitive season, the entire year basically. If any future changes are made, the community will be made known about it, and they will of course be made readily available just as these ones are as well. Now the patch for these maps hasn't come out yet because I'm still working on it, but as soon as it does, everyone will be notified in the Discord and of course over on the website. So starting off with the maps that we have kept intact from the previous seasons, we have High and Dry, which isn't really a favourite of mine. Skullduggery has made it into the pool once more. It is one of the surviving beginner maps, which is probably one of the better ones, to be honest. Well remains nice and sturdy. Square Off, of course, is one of the most iconic. Grassy Knolls remains there, but will have some changes going forward. U Hillock has remained perhaps one of the most reliable maps of all time. Graveyard Shift remains pretty much unchanged, except this year, this season, for both Grunt and Pro League, we will allow the wall climb for the wall areas, because we've had many matches, myself included, where pigs can get stuck behind that wall, and because of the no wall climb rule, you basically remain stuck there forever. So we are allowing that this season, and the rules will be changed, of course, on the website again. Root Canal remains there too. It has had some major crate changes. No more multiple billions of jetpacks everywhere. We have a mixture of crates that are completely different, so mobility has been greatly reduced on Root Canal. Frostfight remains the same, minus the slight reduction in guided missiles. Chill Hill also remains there too. We did decide to remove the airstrike that drops in quite late, but the F-Rain still remains. Bridge the Gap will have a few small changes. You'll be having some more, stronger defensive positions with more walls added in. So there's, on the low ground, a slight reduction to the effectiveness of scouts, but when you're aiming for the high ground, it is still very open. So scouts and snipers and sniping in general is still very much viable on Bridge the Gap. Canyon, of course, one of the newer maps, from the previous seasons, remains the same, but really just unchanged in terms of the assets available. Pigs in Space is surprisingly there too, because there was a bit of a debate going on as to whether or not Pigs in Space was viable, given that, yes, it is a decent basic map, but in terms of the spawns and positioning and stuff, it does need some work. So there will be a video coming out where I'm going to be going over that and kind of making it a bit more competitively friendly and just adding more stuff to it. Pitch Invasion, as we saw from day one of the fortification update, has had some major changes. It's got the slippery tiles now, it's got the minefields in there too, and Over the Top as well also had some changes on that day one. It's been swapped out for an older version of itself, but it has water and hopefully will be a bit more viable this season. Ice Flow also remains the same. We'll be seeing some changes there. The minefields are kind of going to be swapped around, so the ones on the far high ground, the big minefields, those will be removed to free up some space, but the smaller minefields will be added back in, or at least kept and remain the same. Ridgeback remains unchanged, and Upstream is kind of made it on the skin of its teeth, I feel, because Upstream is not necessarily on the chopping block, but it's just the games themselves aren't particularly appealing. I don't know what it is about it. It's Mission 1's map, but it's not that fun. And of course, last but not least, we have P-Drag, which remains pretty sturdy, pretty unchanged. Those tanks remain there, and yeah, quite a fan favourite, I think. So on to the new maps taken from day 2 of the fortification update. We have Morning Glory, everybody's favourite Mission 4. I've always stared at this map and thought it could work in a multiplayer fashion. Just reminds me of those times when I would play on the demo, because this is actually the demo version of that map. So there is a section that is blocked off that normally on Mission 4 you could walk to, and the spawns here are mixed as well. Then we have Cold Front, which I'm quite happy has made it in, because we've got some funky buildings here. On this ISO, it swaps out Ice Flow, so that is the reason for so many crazy buildings. But it's an old version of Mission 24's Hamburger Hill, so hopefully we'll be seeing some interesting plays here. So Australia Standoff, as many of you will recognise as being Mission 7, Here, there's not actually that much going on, but again, the space is completely different, and it is yet another snowy map. But speaking of non-snowy map and at night time, we have Nightfall. Now this is the unused map, only referred to as TDD by its map file, but nevertheless it combines mines and islands. It kind of reminds me of a different version of Hillock, but hopefully it will be complex enough to bring in some interesting plays in the competitive scene, as well as plenty of unique weapon crates as well, because throughout these maps I have tried to include certain weapons that aren't necessarily included in multiplayer. That goes for healing items, that goes for shockwave and pickpocket, but of course certain items aren't necessarily competitive friendly, so expect to see plenty of healing items on these new maps. But yeah, that is also why I'm kind of creating this patch, because I'm going back through the fortification update and making these maps a little bit more competitive friendly in relation to pickup crates. So Nightfall is very much a welcome addition, alongside Barnyard Blitz, my baby that I made, replacing Square Off, because there is just so much to look at and so many building pieces to use. I've said it multiple times now, but I just wanted to make something completely unique and different, and even though the map itself in terms of the terrain is very simple, the stuff on that terrain is hopefully complex enough to bring in some interesting matches. In terms of interesting stuff though, I really like the map Railroad. This was one that I've talked about before in my previous unused map videos, or map development, or whatever you want to call it, but the file name for this is just called Level 12. I don't know why, but it's got a cool railroad on it, and again, I replaced this one, I think, with Ridgeback, hence the inclusion of poison barrels and the influx of buildings as well, because I needed there to be some kind of, not like a station platform, but just a building in that space that is indestructible, I should note as well, and contains some crates too. So Railroad and Barnyard Blitz, kind of two of the new big main ones containing plenty of new buildings. Then we have Frostbite, of course. This one, the map is called 4 Islands, and I really wanted this one to work because it is a good snowy map. It divides, of course, into the 4 sections on those 4 islands, and connecting them with the giant bridges as well, I thought was kind of a cool idea, because it can be a dangerous place to stand, but it's also quite interesting. You have the water below you, and there is a small minefield in the center, kind of blocking you off from walking straight through. But the crates here need to be replaced because currently they are pickpockets. Then we have Hedgerow Warfare. Now this one combines artilleries into an old version of Hedge Maze. And even though the textures aren't too pretty, I'm hoping that it will be interesting enough. I know I'm saying that for basically every single map here, but yeah, there's honestly not much else to say about this because it's Hedgerow Warfare. It is Hedge Maze Part 2, revitalized with artilleries. That's all I'm going to say. Then we have Dusty Ridge. This is Mission 18's map, which isn't that interesting in single player, but hopefully will be in multiplayer. It is complex enough and there are plenty of places to hide, and it is, I think, an older version of itself as well, so it's not exactly the same as Mission 18, but it is pretty damn dusty. And finally, we have Ravine, which is Mission 17's map, known as just Bridge by its file name. And yeah, this one is kind of reminds me a little bit of Bridge the Gap in a multiplayer fashion, because on this map specifically, the teams are split either side. And yeah, no one really has the advantage. There is no minefield, that has been removed. And of course, we have the main water going along the center. So those are the maps that made it in. The ones I haven't talked about are the maps that we have taken out. As you probably noticed from, I guess, the original set of maps, I have not mentioned a couple, and that is Pig in Hell, One Way System, Hill Base, The Lake, and Hedge Maze. Those have been removed. Hedge Maze in particular, and I suppose the Lake as well to a certain degree, those ones are kind of in the works. So they haven't been completely removed and like deleted, I guess, from the map pool. But if there is a method I can kind of work towards in fixing the outer bounds kill issues, then there is potential for them to be added back in a later fashion, or at least in future seasons. But again, just finding the time to do that at the moment. I've got so much going on alongside the upcoming seasons as well. You guys know, of course, I'm now working on Lardcore, so that's taking up the majority of my time. But hopefully, yeah, if I do find that the, I guess, solution that Iron Fox came up with works, then you should hopefully be seeing them back in the competitive scene at some point. But Pig in Hell is definitely out. One-way system is just too broken and just cannot be fixed. And Hill Base, a lot of people argued it was boring, and there are quite a few wall climbs you can use, or wall jumps, I suppose. Thank you to Nicholas for finding those. So Hill Base might make it back into the pool as well in future. But nevertheless, that is the full breakdown of all of the maps that we have coming in and out of this League ISO. Like I said, the website will be updated completely. The League page, the reheated page, the workshop, everything is going to be completely revamped over the next couple of weeks. I've got some big things planned for those, just to kind of reorganize everything and make things quite clear for new people that are visiting the site and just trying to find out information, basically. So keep an eye on that for the upcoming blog posts I have for the website as well. Keep an eye out for the updated patch notes that will be happening on the website. And of course, save the date for the 13th of February when the Grunt League season begins once more. Again, for the final time, if you want to get involved, jump into the Hogs Discord, contact us, let us know that you're interested, and we will add you to the shortlist of players that we currently have. As always, a big thank you from me to everyone in the community for making the league happen and indeed supporting everything we have going on, because this isn't just me doing this. This is ADB, this is Fab, this is Caster, this is Ironfox, all of the players, all of the background staff that we have going. They just do an amazing job, and the fact that we're moving into our 4th year of the Hogs of War League and seeing how much it has grown and looking at that timeline that we have now, it's honestly incredible just seeing how far we've come. But let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. What is your favourite map that you want to see played this season? Are there any favourites that you have that you're excited about to see being played in those upcoming league matches? They will, of course, be streamed over on the Hogs of War League channel. If you haven't seen that before, then do check that out as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up there. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on everything, and I will catch you guys later for the next one.
Husky, the very melodramatic voice of the pig, who does so much for so many. And I have a very important message to tell you. Please, subscribe, like, and tell your friends they should be watching every single video that Pinstripe creates for the marvelous community that is Hogs of War. Do it. Do it now. Tell 10 of your friends, and get those 10 friends to tell another 10 friends. You know it makes sense. From me, Mark Silk, voice person of Hogs of War, along with Rick Mail, who was also epic. To you, Pinstripe, thank you for everything you do. I look forward to more of your videos. Thanks a lot.